All right, guys, as we now try to delve into some of these further chapters, here's chapter 7, and this is what we're going to be calling classical lines. Okay, so we get to this position, bishop c4 and c5. So, okay, knight f6, is just like another possibility here, which is going to be mostly transitioning into something that we've seen already. This very position that was our concern in some of the earlier chapters. But okay, so c5, and we have a very actually adventurous way ahead. It's one of the more exciting chapters, I would say, due to the variety of positions considered. And also, we do have access to some correspondence database, some games played in that give nice light here onto the situation. So d5, and again, this would end up being familiar to us. So it's all about these tricky move transitions. I do, however, believe that this knight f3 here does end up serving white well, and these positions are actually more promising than this d5 move. So knight f3, c takes, and knight d4. Now this is also a move, but I don't think it's necessary for white to trade queens right away. And yeah, some of these positions, they're fine. Just normal kind of a position here, normal play. It really is a preference for a player. But I do prefer knight d4. I think it gives better prospects. Bishop b4, knight c3, knight e7. And here we do arrive at a sort of a crossroads. I do believe that bishop f4 is a very interesting try. Just because how it penetrates this particular diagonal with these ideas of knight db5. Just really kind of showing white's ideas here on this on the queen side. So bishop f4, knight c6, knight, rook d1, and yeah, this position has some kind of, basically this is a very typical Queen's Gambit exchange position where there is the symmetrical pawn structures. White can reasonably hope for some kind of an advantage due to being higher, like just by a little bit, and the pieces usually are more active, but it's sometimes difficult to kind of like estimate this boundary of drawishness. So, yeah, so like let's say h3, and this kind of a position really can boil down to a draw, but in some cases, and the endings do favor white. So let's say, okay, h6, rook c1. Yeah, so white on the surface really is doing a little bit better, but it's just about how persistent black is in the defense. So it takes a very kind of a passive player from the black side to play this kind of position. Like I would never do it myself, but against these kinds of players, yeah, well, well, it really is a minuscule advantage, and you gotta push it to the brim. Yeah, but this objectively equal position. If black plays correctly, nothing is to be feared here. So let us go back. Bishop c5, bishop e3. Okay, so we get to this crucial position that has been explored mostly actually in correspondence games. So castles on b6 is an interesting, albeit dubious alternative. And okay, here a pretty nice position. So king g7 runs into very severe problems. And, this would be one of the ideas why I would like you guys to kind of pursue this sort of a position with white. So here, just basically massive advantage despite equal material. White is just really kind of in good shape due to, the pawn structure basically in dark squares with queens on board. So this is a very good position for white. And here yet another possibility, and again with sort of an equal material, white is doing well here. I'm kind of conservatively giving only plus over equal. But yeah, I mean, this position is definitely favoring white. But okay, back here, queen e7 is the more principled approach. It is a much more logical looking, move, preparing rook d8, getting out of this position. It sometimes kind of, obstructs black's development. Okay, so queen e7, and a couple moves to consider from the white side. So e5, knight d7, and f4. Knight c6, knight e4. And we get into this pivotal, I would say, ending. Okay, so the bishop is hanging, right? There's no way to kind of interfere in some meaningful manner, yeah, other than just maybe obtaining this kind of a position. That would have been just equal. But okay, so bishop b3. Yeah, and again, same story as earlier. There's some symbolic edge due to space, but I don't think it's a particularly, favoring white's kind of position. And yeah, so this perhaps, again, more on the equal side. But okay, for the most part, yeah, these positions really do kind of resemble some Sicilian positions where you have similar dynamics. Yeah, but if you pay attention, like this black bishop, the light square color bishop on the black side, very often it just becomes a liability for black by not having the same options as his adversary is on the white side. And by the way, here there's a kind of an exotic option of knight f5. You may wonder what this is. Again, this could be explored in a deeper fashion. But yeah, suffice it to say, it does give white some kind of an idea of, the kind of dynamics going on here. So ef and bishop c5. Knight e4. And white kind of grabbing on to some of these ideas here. Knight d5. So there is not that much in this. Well, actually, this is not even a move, but because black ends up grabbing both. So this is not an idea. However, bishop d5 gives this kind of an ending. And again, black ends up in a decent sauce here. And yeah, this position basically very kind of equal. So this knight f5, even though it does look tempting at the first sight, is not the best approach. Yeah, so we're back into this e5 move, and knight fd7 or bishop d4 really are the moves here. This is something that may seem like a move. However, after this knight f5, white really just kind of ends up prevailing. So note that this is not possible due to check. And white ends up with a massive material advantage here. However, EF also has these very serious problems. And white is winning again. So not knight d5, knight d7, and now we basically get to our key position. And knight c6. Okay, so here again it's sort of a crossroads. Very often, if you look at the book Zurich 1953, there's a famous game there by Keres who beats the white color with this kind of a setup where there's less space for black, just like this kind of pawn structure. So basically, the point being, this extra move sometimes ends up being a liability. White has to be careful to kind of correctly handle the space advantage. However, bishop e3 is an option. But here, basically, it's a little bit like white is very adamant about placing all of his options into the pair of bishops, into the openness of this position. And this may end up backfiring, as some of these options really are, overrated. So here, for instance, this kind of a position doesn't end up bringing too much to white. But I mean, even here, white has all these pluses. So don't just be cognizant of this evaluation. Very often, there's just other things that kind of end up prevailing. And white does get a very nice position. So, but here, if black plays kind of correctly, kind of like a queen f5, it may lead to serious issues. No checkmate there. So, of course, we gotta be careful here. But if black plays correctly, okay, let's say queen f5. Now, it's just very difficult to show compensation, and it's black who's better. So not bishop a3 there, but rook fd1, it definitely is a move here. And as I do argue, this is something we want. White is just kind of higher up here with space advantage, the piece play. And b6, knight b5, bishop a6 here, and knight d6. So this position, basically white is having a space advantage, is advancing quickly, but black kind of correctly manages to bring out his bishop onto a6, creating his own chances. Rook d4. So there's no fancy captures. It almost looks like the pieces being gained back, but this obviously is a bad choice for black. So bishop c4, rook c4, and f6. Okay. So otherwise, it could be difficult. Basically, the whole point of this chapter boils down to this position. There's this knight on d6, which is so dominating over this other knight. But, white has really good pieces, rook c4, rook d4. But this last rank kind of does seem like a liability. And very often this e5 pawn, it is really not clear if it is a weakness or is it a strength. But really any other move than let's say knight c5 is basically kind of losing on the spot. Now this, the strength of these pieces on a very rare right fourth rank turns out to be devastating, and this is over. Of course, this runs into this checkmate. So black has to be very, very careful. f6, rook c7, fe, right? So there's again not that much of a choice. This just kind of runs into more trouble. Yeah, and this just fares very badly. A hopeless ending for black due to this threat. Yeah, now a forced checkmate. And no way to really kind of avoid this kind of fate. So white's space advantage and active positioning of his pieces does end up giving him a massive edge. So fe, rook d2, knight f6. Okay, so kind of a tactical way. That's the thing, like it really sometimes is about like a single option from our opponent's side to to end up in trouble. And here, however, there's a double attack on the queen and on the rook. White has to kind of act quickly. And white is basically better, but it is a same material kind of position. White has some strategic pluses. That's mainly the pawn structure. Of course, this e6 and e5 pawns are not desirable for black. But there is some, piece activity. There's these kinds of ideas. There is the pin. So it's not like white is kind of like massively dominating in this position. So rook c6, knight e4, and now rook c2 and rook c1. There is a correspondence game that did go, and white basically managed both of these endings. So rook c1 would have been the better choice. And this position really kind of favors white. So there's some threats of this sort: knight g5, rook e8, and knight takes e6. I don't think this really is an option. Well, actually, yeah, I mean, this really kind of could be okay. Yeah, and some of these I have actually considered some of these endings. So white is better, due to the structure. I wouldn't call it such a winning position, but it was very curious for me to discover that such an ending can be just kind of completely lost here. But yeah, I mean, it is a very difficult kind of ending to play. It's just practically speaking, I mean, white has to still really kind of try hard. So it is a case of misleading evaluation, as this ending arises. And knight f6. Okay, so here, first question is, well, what about knight takes f6? Okay, so knight f6, gf, rook grabs this one. Suddenly, black is doing quite okay here. Like this basically is very, very drawish. Basically, a totally drawn rook ending. Knight f6, so that's why knight g5 is such a good alternative. And now after these captures, this, okay, let's say, oh yeah, this does have the obvious problem. But g6, okay, and so we're grabbing onto it. This position, again, is better for white. And a very curious the rook ending, which should end in a draw, but these endings are usually very, very tricky. Okay, so this, a series of exchanges. Knight g5. Yeah, there's no other like good move. This kind of fails due to knight c5. Okay, actually this one. Okay, there's a knight d4 trick. Yeah, actually that's very, very sneaky position. I don't want to speak much about this one. Yeah. But white does have a better option here. This, okay, plus over equal. b3 and e4. Rook e7. Yeah, so this is again that position. And basically, white has the obvious edge here. It's not the easiest thing for black to draw this kind of an ending. Yeah, even this, I mean, theoretically speaking, it's very, very kind of close to winning. So there is definitely a risk on the black side. And okay, let's see. Okay, so here a5, yeah, and yet another take on this ending. Rook c2. The difference being that the king earlier, just plays into h2. There's pluses and minuses on both sides. The king can, by sacking this pawn, it becomes kind of like aggressive. It may end up on all sides of the spectrum here through this extra tempo. However, the pawn is easier to grab. So yeah, it is a contentious case. Knight e4, okay, a5, and now there's some material grabbing. Question obviously is why not king f6? And I really like this ending a lot because it's a very rare kind of an occurrence, like this rook h8, posing to question the positioning of this knight. And yeah, look at just how yeah, g4 actually first. Yeah, g4 first, like wins a checkmate threat. But such a curious case, knight f7. This would be not so great for white, even though it looks winning. But yeah, g4 basically leads to a winning setup with this deadly threat. or g5, and white just kind of ends up winning so much material. So a very curious ending. That's why king g6 and knight f6. Yeah, now this move is very kind of important. White ends up creating this extra g5 threat. So rook b2. A question could be, what if rook c6, pinning these pieces? But now, okay, of course not here. But king h7, and just these pawns turn out to be very, very powerful. Now after g6, there is checkmate. So a beautiful, inspiring position of how really kind of a single side play can lead to such exotic considerations. Check, and yeah, of course, again, this is totally lost. This is not possible. Yeah, black is just suffering here. So basically, this gives us a nice overview here of this positions resulting from our key position here on move 14, where I do believe that white is doing quite okay. And we have our seed game. Here, g4, again, rook b2. Black is just going after these pawns. Captures. Yeah, so this pretty cool move now here in this correspondence game. h5, white is basically winning. So of course, king e6 has a big problem. But okay, rook d4. Yeah, rook d8 is also, oh yeah, just simple. Yeah, okay, of course. And white is winning here. So yeah, so basically a curious case of kind of a sort of a sideline here, but with a lot of strategic impact. I know there is some players out there very keen on playing these kinds of positions here with black. They are solid. These endings are slightly better, like for white, and black ends up, kind of pushed to the last rank. But it's very solid. It sometimes promises some interesting counterplay. So we will be considering some more of this sort of approach in the upcoming chapter 8. Thank you.